Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the North Hills. My name is Kathy Finch, and I am the lay leader today. Please join me in welcoming each other into this moment made sacred by our presence. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. We have one more. Wherever you come from, whatever your journey has been, we welcome you, the whole of you. Our Sunday services are as diverse as we are. So if you're visiting our church for the first time, please come back again several times so that you may experience various topics and styles of worship. Newcomers and guests are always welcome to participate in any of our church activities. If we have any newcomers or guests with us this morning, we invite you to introduce yourselves. Please raise your hand and Dawn will bring you a microphone.
Hi, good morning. I'm John Patterson, and this is my wife.
I'm Lisa Patterson, and I have been here before pre-pandemic, and I joined a hiking group here, and I did bocce ball once here, but I haven't been back for a while, and my family's never been here.
Well, welcome.
I'm Sam Patterson.
Welcome. Please join us for a slightly different coffee hour following the service. More on that in the announcements in just a few moments. We now take a moment to acknowledge that the land we stand on was taken from the local indigenous people, the Haudenosaunee Nation. Following in their footsteps, may we strive to become better stewards of the earth. It is good to be together, both in person and virtually. Please join me in affirming our mission statement. The words will appear on the screens. By building a loving religious community that nourishes the spirit, celebrates life, and cherishes the connectedness of all things, we will transform ourselves and our world. We have a few announcements this morning. There are no religious exploration classes today, so children may stay in the sanctuary with their parents rather than going to their classes. This is not a true multi-generational service, but we will have a story for all ages broken into 2 parts and some space in the back of the sanctuary for some crafts if they'd like to do that. After the service today, there will not be our usual coffee hour. Instead, Friendship Hall will be filled with representatives of our many teams and committees, and you'll be invited to grab a bowl of ice cream and other treats for those with dietary restrictions, and visit the various tables to find toppings for your sundae. This is a great chance to get a taste of all the different ways you can get involved with UUCNH. In particular, we hope that you stop by a few tables, the Connections team, Buildings and Grounds, Facilities Use, and Denominational Affairs. These teams are so important to the life and the work of this beloved community, and they are really looking to build up their membership. So we hope you stop by those tables. Coffee hour seating is available in the East Room, which is the room next to the front doors when you first came into the church. So if you're looking for some tables and chairs to sit to eat your sundaes, that's where some seating is available. Friday, November 14th is open mic night here at UUCNH. We start at 7:30, but show up earlier if you want to sign up to sing karaoke, do some stand-up comedy, stories or magic tricks, read poetry, or dust off that old guitar and share a song or two. Come to perform or just to clap enthusiastically. It's always fun.
Our call to worship today comes from Michael Beckwith. Gratitude places you in this energy field of plenitude. Perceiving life in a consciousness of gratitude is literally stepping into another dimension of living. Suddenly, the seeming ordinariness of your days takes on a divine sparkle. May we hear Michael Beckwith's words as a reminder of the gift of gratitude, and may his divine sparkle help us shine today as we join in worship.
The flaming chalice is a symbol of our faith as we join with other UU churches and fellowships in this familiar ritual. As we share the light of this chalice in our sanctuary, we also welcome those of you viewing remotely to light your own chalice. From Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
These opening words are the covenant recited each Sunday at the UU Church of Loudon in Leesburg, Virginia, where I attended for many years. I had first thought that we would read these words together, but I realized that it's not really appropriate for us to read together another church's covenant. I doubt if anyone would disagree with them, but instead of reading them aloud together, I will read them and you can follow along. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another. Please rise in body or in spirit as you are willing and able, and join in singing our opening hymn, number 349, We Gather Together in the Gray Hymnal. The words will appear on the screen.
Good morning. We are going to do our time for all ages today in two parts today, so the young and young at heart can just stay in their seats. Our story this morning is Perfect Square by Michael Hall. was a perfect square. It had 4 matching corners and 4 equal sides. And it was perfectly happy. But on Monday, the square was cut into pieces and poked full of holes. It wasn't perfectly square anymore. So it made itself into a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. On Tuesday, the square was torn into scraps. So it made itself into a garden. On Wednesday, the square was shredded in strips. So it made itself into a park. On Thursday, the square was shattered. So it made itself into a bridge. And here we will not end with our story, but take a pause. And I invite the young and the young at heart, as you wish, if you would like to use the activity table in the back, we have some perfect squares, beautiful squares that you can use those tools back there to create bridges, parks, fountains, whatever you imagine. So we now invite the lay pastoral team care to come forward for our joys and sorrows.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Horowitz from the Lay Pastoral Care Team. During our service, we create this sacred space for sharing within our community. It is a time to share significant life passages with the congregation so that you can be held in loving care. I'll be reading the joys and sorrows this morning, and Marcia Pedoni will be placing a stone representing each joy or sorrow in the sand. The sand represents our congregation supporting our sorrows and lifting up our joys. Today we have one joy, and this is from Lynn Herkenrother. My granddaughter, sled hockey player for Team USA, was introduced to the audience at a Penguin hockey game this past week. Caden and a teammate, or I guess a couple weeks ago, Caden and a teammate were invited to sit in their VIP box and were shown on the Jumbotron, along with a clip of Caden scoring a goal. It was noted that Team USA scored 34 points to 1 at the World Championships in Slovakia. We now place, to Lynn and Caden, we say, we share in your joy. We now place one more stone in the sand for all the joys and sorrows that exist in our hearts, but remain unspoken today. From far and near, please say with me our caring words. Let us hold in our circle of caring each person here. Let us hold in our hearts those who are unable to be with us today. Let us hold in our memories those who have moved on. Let us find comfort in knowing that we are not alone.
For our meditation today, we would like to share this exercise by meditation teacher named John Kropp. After a 7-month silent meditation retreat in the Arizona desert, John Kropp returned to New York City, where he needed a job and a place to live ASAP. His Zen tranquility deserted him, replaced by anxiety. He felt doomed and trapped. Anxiety can do that to you, make you feel hopeless and without options, even when you are not. Kropp found his meditation skills didn't seem to work on the anxiety, which only increased the anxiety. But he remembered two pieces of advice from two psychologists specializing in anxiety disorders, John Forsyth, PhD, and George Eifert, PhD. Discomfort avoidance is the common thread that binds all anxiety problems together. And from his meditation teacher, Tibetan master Sokni Rinpoche, short moments, many times. These two insights combined revealed the solution: turn toward the difficulties and not flinch away from them. He also needed a bite-sized way to do that, to deal with the anxiety immediately, short moments, many times. So he came up with this thing he called a mindful pause. Basically, the mindful pause is spot treatment for times when you feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed but have lots to do. So today, we'll practice this mindful pause. So we'll all just sit back in your seat, uncross your legs, and with your feet grounded on the floor and your back more or less straight, you may close your eyes if you wish, or you may find a focal point in the space around you. First, take a deep breath. Slowly inhale, filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Inhale directly into your lower belly, and then fill upwards through your mid-torso and chest. Take a pause at the top of the inhale and feel the fullness before slowly exhaling. This will help you take advantage of the well-documented connection between breath and mood. By slowing and deepening your breathing, you can actually create feelings of relaxation and calm. Next, turn towards your body. Open your attention to all the sensations in your body. Let yourself notice whatever comes up: warmth, coolness, tingling, pressure, or the touch of your clothing. There's no need to evaluate the sensations as good or bad. Itching is simply itching. Coolness is simply coolness. If you notice a complex array of sensations, perfect. If all you notice is the feeling of your bottom on the chair, also perfect. If you notice sensations that seem connected to stress or anxiety, these are especially good to pay attention to. Maybe it's a twisting feeling in your gut, or tightness in your chest, or warmth on your face. If you can stay with these bodily sensations and watch them, rather than taking the bait of anxious thoughts, you can let tough emotions pass without taking too much heat. It's like playing in the ocean. When a wave is coming, if you try to plant your feet and resist, you get knocked over. But if you go with it or dive through it, it's no problem. Continue to rest attention on your breath. Pay attention to the sensation of air touching your nostrils as you breathe. With gentle curiosity, notice the flow of changing sensations at the nostrils. These sensations anchor you in the present moment. In this moment, there is no need to deepen or slow your breath at all. Just let your body breathe however it wants to. The last step of the mindful pause is simply to re-engage with the world without any hurry. You might wiggle your fingers and toes to start bringing gentle movement back to your body. Open your eyes if you close them. And now, carry on with your day. But see if you can maintain that calm feeling and groundedness that you just created. If you can, take a few more seconds just sitting there quietly and move at a more leisurely pace. Because mindful pauses are so quick and discreet, you can do them anywhere, anytime. John Kropp writes, quote, "I also used to fall into the trap of using the mindful pause as a way to resist my anxiety. I'd do the 4 steps, then think to myself, what the heck, my anxiety's still here. Stupid thing didn't work. But the trick is to accept that tough feelings, like anxiety, will come and go. When they're here, but that doesn't need to be a problem. By turning toward our emotions and watching them, even for 30 seconds, we can find real relief. Taking mindful pauses has changed my life," end quote. The choir will now come forward to sing "Seeds Grow to Plants." This beloved piece represents the metaphor of how we and our world are always changing and how our resilience and creativity can make those changes be transformative to better things.
My name is Peggy Fallon, and I am honored to be here today. The urge to heal ourselves is a strong human impulse, whether we frame it in terms of healing the mind, the body, or the spirit. Placebos do work to some degree. To be considered effective, a medicine needs to have a positive effect that is better than just the improvement of taking a placebo, a pill that looks just like medicine but contains none. That means that there is some action in our bodies, some healing that happens just because we believe it will. How can we harness this placebo power and use it as a tool for healing ourselves with mind power? And also, what has healing got to do with what we do here on Sunday mornings? Why is healing a spiritual matter? I believe that to some degree, all healing is about healing the spirit. For healing to happen, our body, mind, and spirit must all work together. Sometimes healing seems to relate only to the body, such as in treating physical pain, disease, or infection. Sometimes it seems to relate to the mind, as in treating depression, or the emotions, as in learning to cope better with the residual damage of psychological or physical trauma through counseling. Sometimes we pray, meditate, or commune with nature to heal our spirit. Ultimately, we may hope to use all powers and methods available to us to heal in any way we can. We started this service this morning with the words, "Love is the spirit of this church." Part of the covenant we used to say in my old Unitarian Universalist church in Virginia at the beginning of each Sunday service. And you can find alternates to that version in your hymnal, number 473. When I first came to this congregation, after uprooting myself for the second time in 10 years, I was feeling emotionally bruised and struggling with the choices that had led me to make this move to Pittsburgh. I visited a couple of other UU churches in the area, which just weren't right for me for different reasons. But when I came to this sanctuary in August of 2023, I felt the rightness and the magic of this place, these people, you people. In fact, I was moved to joyful tears that first morning here. Love is the spirit of this church. Love is the spirit of this church. What a powerful mantra. I believe that love heals while hate and fear injure the body, mind, and spirit. The title to my talk today, have you taken your placebo today? It started out as kind of a joke, but the thing is that placebos do work, but you have to believe in them in order for them to work. My sister insists that placebos don't work for her. Well, duh, that's because she's sure they don't work. When I first thought about this sermon idea and the healing power of the mind, I realized I've spoken about this before, not here, but the very first sermon I delivered, I realized many years ago, it was called Healing Happens, and it was about some understanding I had gained from Carolyn Meiss's book, The Anatomy of the Spirit, the 7 Stages of Power and Healing. Dr. Meiss is a practitioner of holistic and intuitive medicine. The Anatomy of the Spirit focuses on the chakras, what she calls our spiritual anatomy. In Hindu and related Eastern religions, the chakras are 7 centers of power that line up along our spines, believed to channel in the subtle body through which energy flows through us. If that sounds too mystical for you, think of it as a way of describing our electromagnetic fields, which science confirms we do have. What struck me so strongly then was that Meiss draws these convincing parallels between the traditional Eastern ideas of the chakras and the basic religious principles and rituals of our Judeo-Christian heritage. It's a long story, but what I took from that was that in order to heal the body, mind, and spirit, we need to live and act according to the moral precepts we have absorbed as true through our cultural and religious heritage. Coming from a place of love, charity, and forgiveness, living the golden rule, is important to our emotional and spiritual health. And we can't be physically healthy without emotional and spiritual health, at least not for long. That brings me to an important caveat. Sometimes the only healing that is available is a spiritual acceptance of the reality of our mortality. Not all illnesses can be cured, not all pain can be lessened. Life is not a curable disease, as we all die in the end. Sometimes, however, miraculous healings do occur. Other times, the healing that occurs is that a person diagnosed with a terminal disease is healed only in the sense that they are able to come to terms with their illness and find peace with it. People who have serious diseases such as cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and mental illness are not to blame for not healing themselves. When people who suffer from depression or other mental illness are blamed for not just snapping out of it, or when people who have terminal cancer are exhorted to fight harder when they've been fighting long and hard already, well, that's just wrong. Let there be no blame, no stigma, no anger directed at people who cannot seem to find healing and peace. Love is the spirit of this church. Yet, there is progress to be gained from using the power of the mind to heal the body. I read in Bill Moyer's book, Healing in the Mind, about a Stanford University psychiatrist, Dr. David Spiegel, who did a research study of 86 metastatic breast cancer patients. He intended to assess what he called the often overstated claim that the right mental attitude can help conquer cancer. These patients had very, very poor prognoses, and they were not expected to survive long. Half of the patients were given standard medical treatment, radiation, chemo, drugs, and the other half was given the exact same treatment, but also asked to meet once a week in a group therapy support group. Dr. Spiegel expected to find that those who were in the support group would report an improved quality of life over the other group, and they did. But to his surprise, the final statistics for the study, at which point several years later all but 3 had died, showed that his metastatic breast cancer patients who also participated in a group therapy support group not only reported an enhanced quality of life with less anxiety and pain, but also survived longer than the control group, who got otherwise the exact same medical regime. In explaining this, Bill Moyers writes, "In gaining a sense of control over our medical treatments, in making conscious choices about how we spend our lives, and in allowing others into our sufferings, we are releasing innate healing capacities that make us nature's allies in our own recovery." The reference to group therapy as a means of helping people with terminal illness leads me to the more common use of group therapy as a means of helping people with emotional wounds. The action is probably similar. Sharing support and understanding with other human beings with similar issues in a non-judgmental setting can help us heal from the wounds of childhood trauma and take actual steps to change our behavior. There's often great power in sharing our stories. If group sessions can help heal our physical and emotional bodies, what about our spiritual bodies? Is there a group therapy for that? Could that be part of what we do here on Sunday mornings? A dear wise friend of mine says that we come to church to heal our spiritual wounds. Something to think about. Love is the spirit of this church. More on this later when we come back to part 2 of this message. And now we're going to hear the rest of our Time for All Ages. And remember, perfect square, remember the square had just made itself into a bridge.
Okay. So it made itself into a bridge. Then on Friday, the square was snipped into ribbons. So it made itself into a river. On Saturday, the square was crumpled and ripped and wrinkled. So it made itself into a mountain. On Sunday, the square waited to see what was next. It waited and waited. Nothing happened. Its 4 equal sides were confining. Its 4 matching corners were rigid and cramped. So it made itself into a window that looked out onto a mountain that gave birth to a river that was crossed by a bridge that led to a park that was home to a garden that had at its center a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. The end. And now we would like to welcome UUCNH member Rick Haverlack, who will be sharing his testimonial today.
Howdy. I always wondered what would happen if I did that. I'm supposed to tell you who Rick Haverlack is. I wish I knew. Anyway, here's some things he wrote. I've been a solo member here for a few years, being in the first cohort of inductees presided over by Rev. Leanne. I live with my wife of 54 years, Aggie, a retired North Allegheny reading specialist, in Allison Park. Nobody I have ever met knows who Allison was, and there's no park there. Go figure. Hardly what I think of as retired, I am very active all week long. At the Carnegie Lamp Library, having narrated and edited more than 30 audiobooks for the blind, and as a 17-year volunteer for the Good Samaritan Hospice, certified as an end-of-life specialist, and as a volunteer at Computer Reach, a nonprofit that refurbishes and has supplied more than 1,700 personal computers to the underprivileged just this year, and as a student at the university classes at Pitt's Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and I also taught 2 courses there. Oh yes, you probably want to know about my working years. I'm a recovering computer engineer with 3 science degrees, who also was a corporate manager and a management consultant. But really, more importantly, now I write, what you might call an occupation. My book on writing hospice patient memoirs, Paths of Heart, is up in the library or on Amazon, but if you buy it from Amazon, the hospice will get the proceeds. However, these days, mostly I write poetry, having only published a couple of them. So much for the obligatory bio. Now, let me tell you about my first steps on my path of being here. I was in a writing class maybe 10 years ago, and I see I'm missing a page. So this will be shorter. I was in a writing class maybe 10 years ago when a fellow student read his work in the sharing part of the class. It was so stunningly well written that after the class, I asked Marty Lieb what else he was writing. He said, "Not much right now, just my letters to my prison pen pals." Can you tell he had a deep voice? Prison pen pals. I was flummoxed. It flashed through my head that if anybody who wanted a pen pal should absolutely get one, it was somebody in prison. Wow, Marty, how can I do that too? Don't see why not. So he emailed me the contact information for the organization that facilitates that worthy service. It was, and still is, part of the UUA, called the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a virtual UU church headquartered up in Boston. I fired off an email with my request. The reply was curt. "We only provide this service between Unitarian Universalists. There are 1,500 of them in prison." At the time, I was a nun, having been a Catholic and a Presbyterian. When I reported back to Marty, he said, "Hey, that's no big deal." Here's all that being a UU is about. Just promise to try to do these 7 things. I looked at the card he handed me, and I said, I already do these things, Marty. He said, so why don't you drop by for a Sunday service? I did, and I never stopped coming. Maybe not the most important reason that I keep coming is that although I was born a Roman Catholic, for the first 20 years of my life, I spent every Sunday morning in church. Otherwise, I was committing a sin. Of course. Then I moved on to Presbyterianism, and I continued the Sunday out of habit more than anything else. So I do absolutely need to get out of the house on Sunday mornings, and all the movies and libraries are closed. Anyway, I come here because of what I hear from this pulpit. It's been very meaningful to me because I'm a lifelong learner. And so just this last week, I managed to learn about Los Dios de la Muerta. Dia de la Muerto. Say it.
El Día de los Muertos.
El Dia. Why is it El Dia? It should be La, no? El Dia de la Muerta. Anyway, and I got to learn about it and what it means. When I was a Catholic, that was considered a heresy. That holiday was considered a heresy. So this is the kind of understanding that the message from up here can bring to you. I'll tell you about another instance. On the Sunday after the first election of Donald Trump, the Reverend Dr. David Herndon down at First Unitarian gave a sermon on why that election had gone the way it had. I was absolutely gobsmacked. He hit it right on the head, and I've never heard a better reason for that happening than what he gave. But I left First Unitarian when David Herndon left, and I wound up here. Here, you gave me something else that was beyond what I'd had experienced down at First U. You gave me acceptance. You gave me acceptance for who I am as opposed to anything else. And I do think that whether it's in, in a covenant group sharing some poetry I've written, or in the Friday night open mic playing the kazoo, or in the BS sessions that we have after church, some of us here, you welcome me. The whole of me. And so I'd like to ask you today, if you'd, like me, consider that you should be supporting organizations that are meaningful to you in your life. And I think because of your presence here, you understand that this is one of them. So that's the end of my somewhat truncated speech, but thank you for your attention.
Generosity is a spiritual practice, one that enlarges the heart and lightens the spirit. For no matter how much or how little we have, in the sharing of it, both the one who gives and the one who receives are blessed. As an independent Unitarian Universalist congregation, we depend on your financial support to pay our staff, to maintain our beautiful campus, and to offer meaningful worship services and religious exploration programs. Instructions for online contributions are on the screens, or you can click the QR code. If you're visiting us for the first time today, feel free to let the basket pass. Your presence with us today is your gift to us. The morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. We now take a moment to share our gratitude for the time and talents given during the service today. Please join me in recognizing our amazing pianist, Nick, and thanking our wonderful choir director, Jeremy Fisher, our oh-so-talented choir members, our fantastic worship leaders, and wonderful stewardship testifier, Rick Haverlack. We appreciate your generosity and will be good stewards of your contributions. Please join me in dedicating the offering. The words are on the screen. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith.
Getting back to our discussion of ways to heal ourselves and moving to the practical, what are some specific techniques we can use to harness the placebo effect and heal ourselves? First, the placebo effect, which is based on the faith or belief that something will work. The trick is to believe in something that you actually practice. Have you taken your placebo today? Whether it's a 2-minute meditation session like Edith led us through, whether it's an expensive vitamin complex or homeopathic remedy, whether it's drinking more water, eating better, quick yoga, or Tai Chi warm-up, it needs to be something you can believe in and practice regularly. It could be as small a thing as intentionally taking a prescribed medicine with the thought, "This will heal me," just to boost the impact of the medicine with the placebo effect plus the pharmacological effect. Interesting, there's some very recent research on how the placebo effect actually works, which I've been looking for because no one quite understands. But an article published by Harvard Health in 2024 says the placebo action involves a complex neurobiological reaction that includes everything from increases in the feel-good neurotransmitters, endorphins and dopamine, to greater activity in certain brain regions less linked to moods, emotional reactions, and self-awareness. Quoting the article, "The placebo effect is a way for your brain to tell the body what it needs to feel better." Interestingly, the Harvard researchers also found that the ritual of the placebo is important. In one study, they had 3 groups of participants. One, they gave a pill with a well-known effective migraine relief medicine, labeled with the medicine's name. Another group, they gave a pill labeled placebo. And the third group got nothing. The people who took the placebo had 50% as much pain relief as the people, compared to the people who had no pain relief in the third group and the people who took the known effective migraine medicine. So, the researchers speculate that the ritual of taking the pill has the associations of taking the medicine that will work. Even if you know it's not the medicine, actually doing it triggers that thing in your brain that makes it work. Whether you call it meditation or prayer, a period of intentional, mindful centering and breathing, taking time to turn inward and to be calm and centered, is considered crucial by just about every source I found about healing with mind power. Likewise, Practicing mindfulness and gratitude serves to focus our brain and reorient our chemistry. Again, it's, what your brain does. Conscious breathing helps too, for all the same reason that meditation works, but also because flooding your body with a little extra oxygen can help a lot. In the rapidly expanding body of knowledge about brain chemistry, there is a growing understanding of how meditation works to actually change the physical brain. There's evidence that real physical changes take place in our brains, which are manifested in heightened compassion, more clarity in perceiving one's place in the world, an enhanced sense of calm and centeredness. Blood pressure is reduced, heartbeat is stabilized, and even blood sugar can be lowered. In 2015, Harvard neuroscientist Sarah Lazar found that long-term meditators have an increased amount of gray matter in the auditory and sensory areas of the cortex. So paying attention to your breathing, to sounds, to the present moment experience, and damping down your cognition's, your brain's tendency to go on elsewhere, can provide measurable positive changes in the brain. This may also explain how practice of gratitude can improve your attitude and your brain. By focusing on those things for which you are grateful instead of those about which you are unhappy and anxious, you build up the muscle, the gray matter, in the brain that you want to use instead of reinforcing your fears. A form of healing that may be familiar and accessible to some you use is the practice of energy work, such as Reiki, where the practitioner uses gentle hand movements to channel energy into and through the subject, sort of an aura massage. This is a whole different sermon by itself, but for those who scoff at the idea of channeling energy and auras, again, Western science has confirmed that living bodies generate electromagnetic fields, which, when mapped, show overlap with so-called auras. One more source of healing I have to mention, the healing power of time spent outdoors in nature. In Silent Spring, Rachel Carson wrote, "Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after winter." End quote. I was lucky enough to grow up with parents who themselves felt renewed and empowered from spending time outside and who cherished natural beauty. So it seems easy for me to repeat that behavior as a form of self-healing. A growing body of research, though, also shows that people who live in rural areas have a lower incidence of anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses than those in urban areas. Within the population of those who live in urban areas, those who live near green spaces and parks or who visit natural environments have lower levels of stress hormones than urban dwellers who do not. Of course, the access to nature may not just be the sole explanation, since access may also be keyed to economic opportunities or to exercise, which of course both have other significant effects on health. But researchers in both Japan and the US have done controlled studies comparing people who walk in a park compared to people who walk in nature, and we're the same distance compared to people who walk in the city on busy streets without nature, but walking the same distance. And the walk in nature yields more positive and lasting effects than walking elsewhere. A researcher named Gregory Bratman found measurable improvement in brain images after a walk in the park, a significant reduction in a kind of brain activity associated with negative brooding. So you walk in the park and you get better about brooding about bad things. When I was young and foolish and interested in natural healing, yoga, and meditation, I was attracted to the idea that healing by a kind of meditation and breathing, intentionally focusing white light on the subject or on oneself, might actually work. The idea is by focusing our energy, we can actually direct healing energy. It sounded like a great tool for healing, and there were a couple times it seemed to work dramatically for me. But in practice, it requires a high level of concentration and worked only rarely, possibly because that kind of concentration is hard for me personally to maintain. Oh, look, something shiny. What was I talking about? Regardless of my success or failures using white light to heal, when a Vermont singer-songwriter and breast cancer survivor named Rachel Bissix performed for the coffee house at my former UU church, and she sang a song called In White Light, which she had written for her son, who was then serving in Afghanistan. I immediately and intuitively felt it to be, for me, a song of great healing power and beauty. The song describes the moon's light as shining down on all of us, all over the world. We will be playing this song on YouTube as the postlude today, and those of you watching remotely will find a link in the chat at that time, because we will have to mute it for you. The first part of the song goes like this. Sun goes down, moon comes up, lighting the earth just enough to see my face looking up at her full size on the horizon. Mama did her best, it's true, Papa too. But now they're gone, I'm on my own. Moon will see me safely home. And as I drive this road alone, she will bathe me in white light, in white light, in white light. A year or so after Rachel Bissix sang that at the church coffee house, I was working on a church service, and I contacted Rachel and asked for her permission to sing it in church. I found out then that her cancer had returned metastasized. But she graciously agreed to my request and sent me the guitar chords with the lyrics. Some dear friends with amazing voices sang it with me in that congregation that morning of that service. And that morning when we sang it, that little chapel reverberated with love and white light. We found out later that Rachel Bissix had died in Vermont, surrounded by her family, including her son, safely back from Afghanistan, that very morning, about the time we sang that song. It's time to go, the lyrics say. I hope you know, moon will see you safely home in white light. It sure felt like she was saying goodbye, not just to her son, but also to us, to all of us. Oh, ye skeptics among us, there are mysteries and there are miracles, and healing does happen. It does indeed have much to do with the spiritual. Love is the spirit of this church. I struggle with healing myself. I struggle with staying positive. I've entered the whack-a-mole stage of old age, where you resolve one medical issue and another one pops up. But I've come to realize that healing is a process, not a one-time result. Bob Dylan said, "He not busy being born is busy dying." I would paraphrase that. He not busy being healed is busy getting sicker. Love is the spirit of this church. Please rise in body or in spirit as you're willing and able, and join in singing our closing hymn, For the Beauty of the Earth, number 21 in the gray hymnal, and the words will appear on the screen.
Please join in our closing words for the chalice extinguishing, written by Elizabeth Sell Jones, number 456 in our gray hymnal. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I know we're anxious to get to that ice cream. We're almost done. We've heard today about a number of paths to healing and transformation. From our call to worship reading, we heard how gratitude can help us step into a greater consciousness with a divine sparkle, as Michael Beckwith called it. From our time for all ages, a metaphor of simple but wildly creative visual changes being transformative to something different, powerful, and beautiful. From the choir's anthem, a lesson of resilience, strength, and love, having the power to change everything. Like turns to love if you add a little fellowship. From the message, how the placebo effect works to heal us, and how we might harness that power. It all folds together like origami to reveal the message, the faith that we already have, the transformative power we seek. We already have the transformative power we seek. Go in peace and in power. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.